How you doing, YouTubers? This is one of the ones, and I wanted to talk to you about this book right here called the Necronomicon. Alright, real quick, this book was published in 1977. It is a book about incantations and spells, black magic. Supposedly one of the most evilest books around. It's been featured in horror films. It's been made out to be really a bad fish.
It's first pictured on page 11 in the Necronomicon. It is, in the instructions, it says the amulet must be engraved upon a plate, a square of pure silver in the full light of the moon, and that the moon should shine upon it during its workings, and the essence of the moon be drawn down and captured thereupon within it, charged within it, and that it should never catch the light of the sun, the amulet of calling. He makes mention of the amulet several times. On page 10 he said, "My head began to ache as though a devil was pounding my skull when a shaft of moonlight struck the metal."
And believe it or not, it is a real book. But what is interesting about this book is that it is mostly Sumerian translations. 90% of this book has something to do with ancient Sumerian history, and the history is concerning their deities, their gods, and how to evoke them using these various spells and incantations, black and white magic. Well, the book has been made out to be something so bad that we shouldn't even touch it, or something would happen bad to us, but it's really just a book about ancient Sumerian history and information.
In conjunction with the New Believers present the Necronomicon Secret History. The Necronomicon is a portal to another dimension, full of what we call demons. It is a gateway to a terrifying evil so powerful, anyone trying to use the book is almost certainly doomed. Lovecraft claimed to have invented it in his stories in 1922, and this belief is widely accepted. But the truth is its secret history goes way back to 730 AD, and was written in Damascus by Abdul el-Hazard. The word Necronomicon means the Book of the Customs of the Dead, or the Book of the Ezif, a word the Arabs used to refer to nocturnal insects, but it is also a reference to the howling of demons or jinn. Little is known about Abdul el-Hazard. What we do know about him is largely derived from the small amount of biographical information in the Necronomicon itself. He was born in Sana'a in the Yemen. We know that he traveled widely, from Alexandria to the Punjab. He is often referred to as the Mad Arab, after being driven crazy by the Necronomicon. No Arabic manuscript is known to exist anymore. A Latin translation was made in 1487 by Alaus Wormius. Not in the 17th century as Lovecraft maintains. Almost 100 years later, in 1586, a copy of Wormius's Latin translation surfaced in Prague. Dr. John Dee, the famous English magician, and his assistant Edward Kelly were at the court of the Emperor Rudolph II to discuss plans for creating gold, and Kelly bought the copy from the Kabbalist Jacob Eliezer, who had fled to Prague from Italy after accusations of necromancy. The Necronomicon appears to have had a marked influence on Kelly, because his scrying changed, and he contacted an evil entity, which struck horror into the Dee household. Kelly left Dee shortly afterwards. Dee then translated the Necronomicon into English, but contrary to Lovecraft, this translation was never printed. The manuscript passed into the collection of the great collector Elias Ashmole, and then to the Bodleian Library in Oxford. Why did the novelist H.P. Lovecraft claim to have invented the Necronomicon? The answer to this interesting question lies in two people, the evil magician Alister Crowely and Sonia Green. There is no question that Crowley had Dee's translation of the Necronomicon, probably while researching Dee's papers. Too many passages in Crowley's Book of the Law read like a transcription from the Necronomicon. Crowley also claimed to remember his life as Edward Kelly in a previous incarnation. Why doesn't Crowley mention the Necronomicon in his works? He was surprisingly reticent about his real sources. There is a strong suspicion that 777, which Crowley claimed to have written, was largely plagiarized from the Necronomicon. I suspect that the Necronomicon became an embarrassment to Crowley when he realized the extent to which he had unconsciously incorporated passages from it into the Book of the Law. In 1918, Crowley was in New York. As always, he was trying to establish his literary reputation. Sonia Green was a Jewish emigre with literary ambitions, and she had joined the Walker's Sunrise Club. It was there that she first encountered Crowley, who had been invited to give a talk. They met again on an irregular basis for some months. In 1921, Sonia Green met the novelist H.P. Lovecraft, and in that same year Lovecraft published the first novel, The Nameless City, where he mentions Abdul el-Hazard. In 1922 he first mentions the Necronomicon in The Hound. On March 3, 1924, H.P. Lovecraft and Sonia Green are married. We do not know what Crowley told Sonia Green, and we do not know what Sonia told Lovecraft. However, consider the following quotation from the Call of Cthulhu 1926, that cult would never die until the stars came right again, and the secret priests would take Cthulhu from his tomb to revive his subjects and resume his rule of Earth. The time would be easy to know, for then mankind would have become as the great old ones, free and wild, and beyond good and evil, with laws and morals thrown aside and all men shouting and killing and reveling in joy. Then the liberated elders would teach them new ways to shout and kill and revel and enjoy themselves, and all earth would flame with a holocaust of ecstasy and freedom. It may be brief, it may be mangled, but it is the undeniable ring of Crowley's Book of the Law. It is easy to imagine a situation where Sonia and Lovecraft are laughing and talking in a firelit room about a new story, and Sonia introduces some ideas based on what Crowley had told her. She wouldn't even have to mention Crowley, just enough of the ideas to spark Lovecraft's imagination.
This "they wait beyond the gate" thing is going to jump out at you once you begin to touch. Aliens are opening and coming in and out of. So anyway, let's go on a little further here. I've had this book for a long time, but I've only used it for just slight references concerning Sumerian translations and how these Anunnaki were at least seen in Sumerian times. Welcome to another video. This one is entitled Indigo Children, because that is what I am. I fit the definition of what the phenomenon of an indigo child is, but there is somewhere where I do also differ, but that's what we're going to talk about a little bit.
Next article, famous occultist talks about the Indigo Children. This is just a brief excerpt. This was on George Norrie this week. I'm on his email list. I kind of like to see who he's interviewing. And it's usually some different occultist every night is what it typically is. Now, not every night, but most of the time. And it's this starts out by saying, named one of the world's greatest psychics. Elizabeth Joyce talks about the Indigo Children. Now, I've done several teachings where I mention them. I've done a dedicated teaching on the Indigo Children that you can key in Scott Johnson and then Indigo, up on YouTube, or you can go to the archive section at contendingfortruth.com and find it. According to Joyce, the evolutionary process has gifted certain special children with 2 extra strands of DNA. Here we go with the DNA again. Isn't that weird? So these indigo children supposedly have 2 extra strands of DNA, which will be activated in the forthcoming era of the new vibration. This is the dawning of the age of Aquarius.
Indigo children are people with indigo-colored auras. They are said to have enhanced genes or genetic mutations. No, not genetic mutations such as 3 arms and 1 leg. They basically have positive mutations in their genes that their parents don't have.
Remember that song? This is what they're talking about. They're talking about when the Ascended Masters, with, I believe, with Maitreya as their head, will make their scene, will make their debut. And they're going to bring in this new, higher vibration.